In their first road game of the year, the Royals blast the Milwaukee Brewers. Let's give you our thoughts next on Locked On Royals.
You are Locked On Royals, your daily Kansas City Royals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are tuned in to another edition of Locked On Royals in the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter or X at JohnnyJ_15. It's at JOHNYJ_15. And you can always find us on wherever you listen to your podcast. That can be Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, Odyssey, and YouTube. Just be sure to hit that follow button and subscribe. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So get started today over at FanDuel. And for the new listeners, you are joining at the perfect time, as I always like to say, so maybe take that for what it is. But the Royals now coming off of their first road win of the year. We bring you episodes Monday through Friday. If we ever miss a day, we'll always try to make it up over the weekend. And on Fridays, it's dedicated to you, the listener. So send in any question you may have about the Royals, and we're going to do our best to answer it. And if I miss some questions, last week apparently I did miss a few. It's never intentional. We're just starting to get more and more questions every single week. So trying to condense 40, 45 questions into 30 minutes. Sometimes, I'm not always able to get to your question. So if I miss it, just respond to one of the YouTube videos or direct message me on Twitter, and I'll be sure to answer it on that platform. So you will at least get an answer in some way, shape, or form. As I just mentioned, the Royals won today in Milwaukee. It was the Brewers' home opener, and that didn't matter at all to Kansas City. They absolutely thrashed Milwaukee from start to finish, and I'll be quite honest with you, this was not an outcome that I was predicting or envisioning prior to what would have been 1 o'clock today. I thought that this was either going to be a grinded out type of game. It also was an emotional game for Milwaukee. They had been just torn apart by the Yankees lineup and their new torpedo bats, and they were a national story. Nestor Cortez gets lit up. Freddie Peralta gets lit up. The Royals will see him on Wednesday afternoon. I mean, their pitching had just been bombed by the Bronx Bombers. And then you come back home, and then you have the true emotional feel to it because it was the first game without Bob Uecker, their legendary play-by-play man, and you had the moment of silence before the game. They did a phenomenal job in honoring him, and the baseball world will forever be left saddened by his passing, and that's going to be a large hole in the baseball community. Bob Uecker is one of the greatest, if not, you could make the case he is the greatest of all time. Like Vin Scully up there as well. But, the Brewers had that emotional feel to it today. And I know that was heavy for Brewers fans. That was heavy for the players because they loved him so much. And the Royals had been a part of emotional games in the last 10 years. I'll never forget in 2013, it was the first game at Fenway Park after the Boston bombing. And, for David Ortiz to do that, it showed the leader that he was. And for the Brewers, you could tell in the pregame introductions how emotional that was. So back to that point, I just thought that sometimes those emotional games, they go in favor of the team that's dealing with that true emotion. And the Brewers had that mix of being pissed off from coming back from New York and getting spanked, and then that first home game without Bob Uecker. And the Royals jump on Rodriguez right off the bat. They get 3 runs in the first inning. Thought for a minute, after Salvador Perez goes down on 3 pitches, that the Royals were going to squander a first and second nobody out opportunity. And how about the fact, too, that to begin the top of the first, Jonathan India, who was hitting the head by 99 miles an hour, leads off the game with a 106-mile-an-hour single to left field. He gets 3 hits on the day. Actually, it might have been 2 hits now that I think about it, but drove in multiple runs. He's just one bad dude. I mean, that is a true gamer out there for the top of the Royals lineup. He set the table. Bobby Witt Jr. infield single. And Maikel Garcia on a pitch that I thought a few times last year got the best of him just to roll it over to second base, that outside corner. but he just went the other way with it. Didn't try to do too much and lofted it right over Yelich in left field. That opened the scoring for Kansas City. And then Hunter Renfroe, who got a lot of scrutiny for his performance in the weekend series against Cleveland. He rips a 2-run single and never looked back. Kris Bubic was so damn good today. And it's a big reason why I was very high on him winning that job in spring training. Once we got the word that he was going to be stretched out and that was going to be the move, I wanted to get behind it a little bit more. I wanted to show that support of, they believe in Kris Bubic, and he deserves another chance at the rotation. He deserves an opportunity to take that job and run with it. And today, he gets 15 whiffs. He strikes out 8. His velo was good. His sweeper was good. I mean, you looked on some of those swings like the Brewers thought he was throwing 100 when it was just sitting about 93 to 94. And then toward the very end, about 91 to 92. He was so efficient in this game, though. And that was a breath of fresh air, even though it was a small sample size. But against Cleveland, there was no efficient start in that one. Cole Reagans battled command. Seth Lugo battled command. Michael Walker threw nearly 90 pitches in 4 innings. They didn't really get a great start. They got a good start from Cole Reagans, a fine start from Seth Lugo, but not a very good one from Michael Walker. And even though he only gave up 1 run, to only get through 4 innings, that's just not good enough. You need the length out of your rotation. And the guy that gets 6 innings for the first time this year is the one that I thought wasn't going to be working that deep into games early on in the season. You wanted to make sure he could build that arm up, and over 92 pitches today, he clearly is in good shape to work deep into games. But after that 3-run first inning, the Royals just never looked back, and the Brewers never really threatened. They had a bases-loaded situation when the Royals were up by 4, but Bubic made a good pitch to get a ground out over to Mark Cann at first base, who also got on base 3 times today. That's what they traded for, the on-base machine. And his first start as a Royal comes against the team that just traded him a few weeks ago. It was feel good all the way around. Maikel Garcia, who we'll talk about here in the second segment, he crushed one. I mean, I don't know if it's just me, and maybe I should pump the brakes, because last year he got off to a good start. He had homered on opening day. He had homered in the first road series of the year. I mean, he was crushing some pitches. He just looks bigger, though. He looks bigger. He looks more patient at the plate. Everything about what he's doing looks good so far. Salvador Perez, he homers in this one. He's had a good start to the year, contrary to what we saw last year. In the offense, you get 11 runs. I'm not going to nitpick too much. And it's why the struggles in the opening series, they didn't alarm me too much, and I didn't think they were that terrible. Last year, where they had 1 run in the first 2 games, or maybe it was 2 runs, I mean, there was some legitimate concern even as early as it was, and then they erupted for, I want to say, 12 or 13 runs in the series finale against Minnesota. But today, they're coming off of a loss to Cleveland. It was an ugly game on Sunday. It was bad weather. Starting pitching wasn't that great, or at least not efficient enough. Bullpen certainly wasn't good. And the offense had one opportunity where they had bases loaded, nobody up, down by 5 in the 8th inning, I want to say it was. Only got 1 more run after that. But good at bats today. They were patient. A little bit of credit goes to how awful Milwaukee's pitching looked today. I mean, even after Rodriguez, the Brewers didn't have anybody in there that was throwing competitive strikes. When they were in the zone, it was getting crushed. And the Royals did what you were supposed to do in spots like that. Just pull away. Don't even make it a nerve-wracking game by the 7th or the 8th inning. I mean, make sure that thing is put away. Where in the final 3 innings, you just need long relief. Serpa got tagged for a run, but that was all Milwaukee got. Daniel Lynch, he battled around a jam and worked 2 innings of scoreless work there. 11-1. I'm not going to pick apart anything other than our final segment today. And I feel I have to acknowledge it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing my job as this podcaster. I mean, we can say how awesome Jonathan India was, how awesome Maikel Garcia was, and we'll be praising him here in the second segment. Bubic, fantastic. Can't wait to see him start again against Baltimore this coming weekend in Kansas City. Going to try to get out to that game, even if it's in the high 40s, low 50s. some of those cold weather games, get you some fun pitchers duels early on in the season. But I am excited to see him in person for the first time this year. But as I said, there's a lot we can go over. That was very positive that we could spend more than 30 minutes on. But to close out the show, we are going to have to acknowledge this slow start for MJ Melendez and how I'm not seeing much change in the new stance. And I do have to give it time in the same way that a lot of people are feeling differently about Hunter Renfroe today. Just a better game, a better performance. And sometimes all it takes is one big swing to get you going. But we will save that for the final segment of today's show. When we come back, let's talk about another positive. Maikel Garcia has gotten off to a phenomenal start, and he didn't even start on opening day. We'll talk about his performance next on Locked On Royals. You are tuning to Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter or X at JohnnyJ_15. Want to give a shout out to the one and only sponsor today in FanDuel. March Madness is here, though it's almost over, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's 200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Again, that's FanDuel.com. Get your picks in before the Final Four. And for my first FanDuel pick of the week, I will go to a very anticipated Final Four matchup. All of them are. All the one seeds are there. But I will take the over on points for Juwan Roberts for Houston and their game against Duke. Should be a great one. If there's anybody to knock out the Blue Devils, it might be Kelvin Sampson's Houston Cougars. The next positive we're going to be touching on here is Maikel Garcia. And if you've listened to my podcast going back to 2023, you would know how big of a supporter I am of Maikel Garcia. Always felt that the tools were there. Thought last year got off to a great start. Top of the order guy. Was the typical Royals leadoff man. He ambushes the first pitch. But unlike some previous leadoff hitters, he struck the ball really well. I mean, he could scald the ball. And then you add the defense part of it. I mean, he could be an incredibly valuable piece for the Royals' future. And whether he was at short, third, second, and even today in center field, you knew that the upside was there. But in the game of baseball, potential is such a dangerous word. Ceiling is a dangerous word. We've said it for years with numerous guys. Adalberto Mondesi was a potential guy. Man, if he can put it all together, he can truly be special because he is a five-tool player. Not everybody gets talked about in that way, but Royals fans had done it before. They'd done it with many guys. Bubba Starling was a potential guy. High ceiling guy, had a lot of the tools. Asa Lacy, high potential, high ceiling. And with Maikel Garcia, he was young enough, and you had some of that advanced data where it made sense to say, here's some numbers to back it up. Don't know why it's not working out. And last year, I want to say it was a combination of maybe the confidence. He is a confident player, but when he went through that brutal slump, I want to say it was like 4 for 50. It was some ridiculous slump that torpedoed the rest of his season. Then he got a little bit better toward the end and was great in the postseason. He even had a 4-hit game at Yankee Stadium. But you wanted to see the complete version of that, not just every once in a while a multi-hit game. And what I love today is that he hits in the 9-hole, and it's the approach he has. And we saw that approach on Saturday, the game-tying home run off of Paul Sewald. Then yesterday, he was one of the few guys to have an extra base hit. And then today, first at bat he has, yes, Rodriguez misses middle, but 430 feet, 109 off the bat. I know I'm rounding up a little bit. That's a grown-ass man swing. And that's your 9-hole hitter. And I want to say that protection is huge for him. I understand Bobby Witt Jr. hit behind him last year. That should have helped his numbers up there. But leading off and hitting 9th, we know how different that is. Even though it's one spot in the order, that you are away from. Now, you're 8 technically when you start the game. But then once the game gets rolling, it's 9-1. You're the second leadoff hitter, as they call it. But to have Jonathan India behind him and to have that pressure off of his shoulders, you are seeing a balanced approach. He homers today. He also walks twice. And that's another part I want to bring up. It is the comfort at the plate, in the box. You can see a guy that knows what pitch he's looking for. I will say he struck out on a pitch that was way outside the zone today. Maybe that was knowing, hey, I crushed a pitch and I'm sitting on something here, and he got fooled. Happens all the time. It happened to Bobby Witt Jr. on opening day. But with Maikel Garcia, to give that in the 9-hole, that's where I start to ponder, what if he can play center field somewhat well? If he really can adjust and play that position at an average level, is he your everyday center fielder? Maybe it's one thing, too, where you don't want to overexpose him. But so far, the contact he's making, you are seeing why the Royals are still so high on him. And to not be the everyday third baseman, but maybe the super utility guy, there's something to it. There can be a method to the madness there to tap into that true potential. And as I said, it's a dangerous word. But the Royals last year had a bench of 2 guys who were their super utility players that didn't have any power. And none of the advanced metrics backed up that they were a good option at the plate. For Garcia, there is. And there still is a great chance, maybe that's too strong of a word, a good chance that he becomes an above-average player for this lineup. That when he comes up to the plate, you say, I expect big things here. I expect him to come through in the clutch. Whereas on Saturday, you had the game-tying home run, and everybody's looking around at each other going, was that Maikel Garcia? Oh, you expect that from Vinny, from Bobby, from Salvi, maybe from Jonathan India if you're there, but not from Maikel Garcia. And he homers then, follows it up with a good performance on Sunday and a really good performance today. I expect to see him in the lineup tomorrow night. And those powder blue unis that now apparently, per Ryan Lefevre on the broadcast, are their official road uniforms. As if today couldn't get any better with the win and completely bludgeoning a team 11-1. Those all powder blues are going to be their road unis for the year. No, you can't ask for much more than that. With Garcia, though, it wasn't a drastic change, and Andy Rogers did a great story on this in spring training. But just a slight adjustment might have helped him a little bit. And another part to this is last year, the home run on opening day, the Venezuelan League performance that he had, the Winter League, where he's homering left and right. I mean, he's not a big guy, but we know he hits the ball hard, and if he launched this ball in the air, he might send a few out. And when that happened early on in the season, you saw that approach change. You saw him kind of abandon that great swing where he goes to right center field or just to right field. The line drive swing. Today, what I love, in his first at-bat, he crushes the middle pitch. And what do you see in the next at-bat? You see the patience. I'm not trying to go up there and demolish another one. If it's there, I will. But I also understand that they're going to pitch me differently in this at-bat. And he walks not once, but twice in this game. Plays good defense. Maybe not so much in center field. He didn't get many opportunities. The only one, it was the RBI double by Jackson Chourio, and that one was tailing away from him. Maybe Kyle Isbell gets it. If he does, it would have been one hell of a catch. But Garcia also had a great defensive play at second base in the 9th inning. We can see that versatility. And another reason why I really want Garcia to stick in center field is it puts Jonathan India back on the dirt, which I believe that's going to be the best case scenario for the Royals defense, keeping Jonathan India in the lineup, but he's not playing left, he's playing third, which Jonathan India had a couple of bumpy plays on opening day over at third. He'll get better over there. And I'd much rather the Royals try him at third base full time instead of bouncing between third and left field. With Garcia, we know he can play third, we know he can play second, we know he can play short. I really want to know if he can play center field well. And if that moves Kyle Isbell out of the lineup, it does make him the fourth outfielder. However, with Garcia hitting like this, and if this is a sign of things to come, don't want to overreact to a small sample size, you've got a true above average player out there in center field. I don't need the best glove and the best arm in center field. I just need good enough. I need you to be able to handle yourself out there. And it takes time. And he's not going to be able to fully learn that position unless the Royals commit to it. Hey, when he's in the lineup, we need to see him in center field. If there's a day Jonathan India needs off, then yeah, he can play third. Or Michael Massey, he can play second. Just want to see if he can stick in center field. Because I've loved what I've seen so far from Maikel Garcia at the plate. Want to see if it can translate defensively to the outfield. We're going to take our final break of the show. When we come back, yeah, we do have to talk about a negative thing from today and maybe a negative thing through the first 4 games. MJ Melendez is not looking much different. How long is that leash? What should the Royals do to help him? And is he a lost cause at this point? We'll tell you about it next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter or X at JohnnyJ_15. For the final part of our show, we want to talk about MJ Melendez and where the Royals can help him a little bit, where we can maybe be patient, but also understanding of people that are not willing to wait around any longer on MJ Melendez. I was one of those people, along with many others, that had the chance to see that new swing, that new stance in Surprise. And in the cages and the games, it did look better. He looked more comfortable at the plate. We also had to factor in that he was great with the new stance in spring training the previous year. It did not translate to the regular season. And I'm also fully aware that 4 games is not enough to say if someone's going to be great or somebody's going to be terrible. What I will jump in with, though, is some players just unfortunately don't have the benefit of the doubt. I've said this point a few times to some coworkers and a couple of buddies of mine. If Bobby Witt Jr. hit 180 in the month of April, would you be concerned? You'd be frustrated. You'd also understand that's an MVP player that can figure it out. He has proven in the last 2 years that he's one of the best players in baseball. If Vinny Pasquantino was hitting a $180, we'll just keep it right there, after April, are you panicking? Maybe you are, depending on how highly you value Vinny Pasquantino or what expectation you've set for him. I wouldn't be too concerned considering he did it last year. He was ice cold to start the season and then really started to ramp things up. Salvador Perez has proven that slow starts, they don't really factor into how good or bad he's going to be in the season. He's had long slumps, and he's going to have one this year, as every player does. He just has that track record, though, of he can still be an above-average hitter. When it comes to MJ Melendez, when it comes to Kyle Isbell, when it comes to Hunter Renfroe, though Renfroe, not as much. He has had multiple successful years at the plate in the big leagues. With MJ and Isbell, we haven't seen it yet. And that's why those were the 2 guys that I circled and said they just need a hot start. They need that start that Garcia is having right now. They need that start that Jonathan India is having with a new team. Because if you don't, the pressure only starts to mount. It gets a lot more difficult to climb out of that hole. And as I've said multiple times before, these players are not stupid. They know what's said about them. With the state of social media and these guys being online, they know what's said about them. Whether they comment on it or not, that's totally up to them. They know, though, there's pressure. They know what happened last year. And in this league, it's all about winning. You can have your feel-good stories, and you can have your Cinderella stories, if you will. But at the end of the day, it's about winning. And if somebody's not helping you win, your organization is going to move on from you. And the Royals have had a longer leash with MJ Melendez, considering his age, what he showed at the minor league level, and what the advanced data says on him. That can only take you so far, though. Going back to my point about the word potential, it's dangerous. And even J.J. Piccolo said at the end of the season press conference, he's a perplexing player. When we watch him practice, when we watch him hit, everything checks out. It just doesn't always translate to the big leagues. Now, he did get his first hit of the year today. Hopefully that can spark something, because here's where I'm at, too. I don't stand with the folks that root against MJ to fail and then be DFA'd. I'm not for that. I don't want anybody on this team to fail. If they're failing, that means they are contributing to losing. I want Kyle Isbell to be a league average hitter. I want MJ to be an above average hitter with the power. I want Hunter Renfroe to succeed again. You want those things to happen so that your team can be really good. I understand they may not be your favorite player. Always wanting to root for those guys, though. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. It happens every year with every team. There is one or two players in that lineup that just don't make it to the end. This year is different, though, with those two young players, with Isbell and Melendez. I'm of the belief you give somebody the first month. Those two, I give them the first month. If you can see signs and you're willing to work with it, then by all means, keep them on the roster, keep them on the lineup. You also have to be honest with yourself that if things are not getting better, and there's another 180 start to the season or 170 start with no power, you may be out of options at that point. You don't need to make a reactionary move out of frustration. Oh, we need to, get rid of this guy and call somebody else up. You got to be very sure that the replacement can give you more than that. I think there could be a world in which a platoon could be in order to take the stress off some of those guys, where against lefties, Renfroe will hit. Against righties, MJ will hit. Maybe you play Mark Canha and Hunter Renfroe in the outfield one day. Maybe some of these guys just are 2 games a week type of players. They're not the everyday players, and you can find something special about their game. The ugly start, though, it's 4 games. Those are the type of players that can't afford it. Baseball's a mental game. And from everything about, meeting MJ Melendez, interviewing him, stuff like that, he is a wonderful person. He always speaks to the media. He never shies away from it. And the same way I said this about Jordan Lyles. Now, they're not the same player. I'm not trying to compare that. Just that I have a lot of respect for people that understand there's the criticism there, and they're still willing to face the media, answer the questions about their struggles. To that point, though, with the mental part of baseball, it can wear on people for a long time. When you're going out there every single day, and if the fans are against you and they're rooting against you, it can't be fun to go out there. I hope that one of those hits falls in, a bases loaded situation, you clear the bases, you go yard as he did last year, and you can take it and run with it. We saw a different Hunter Renfroe today at the plate, coming off of an ugly weekend, and he had a big-time 2-run single with 2 outs. That was a massive, massive hit. A 1-0 lead in the bottom of the first is a hell of a lot different than 3-0. You give him credit for helping win that game today. And there's going to be a game sometime this year that MJ Melendez helps the Royals win it. What you need, though, is for that to happen more than just once a month or once every 2 weeks. You need that maybe once a week or once a series, a big-time hit. If he's going to be an everyday player, that has to be the expectation. You got to give him a full month, in my opinion. You got to give Kyle Isbell a full month, in my opinion. And then if it's not working, it's not working. 4 games isn't enough, but I will say it's not the start you're wanting with that new stance. You wanted to have something to go off of where he's walking more. He's hitting the ball hard every single time. He's going to the opposite field. Those things can be positives during a slump. As of right now, there's just not many positives about the slump he's going through. And the strikeouts are still happening. Some off-balance ugly swings still happening. Tomorrow, maybe he's in the lineup, maybe he's not. I am rooting, though, for the next time he's out there to have that big hit in the same way Renfroe had the big hit today. All right, that's going to do it for another edition of Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I've been your host, Jack Johnson. Tomorrow, We will probably have an afternoon episode before the game, break down a little bit more with what we saw from Chris Bubic, preview that matchup on Tuesday night with Michael Lorenzen taking the ball for the first time. And are we concerned at all by some of the lack of efficiency from the starting rotation? That'll all be in tomorrow's episode of Locked On Royals. But until then, you take it easy, Kansas City.